Oh, comes at you fast. Hey guys, Jonathan here, and I am making videos again. I know it's been a while, I've been pretty busy, and part of that is because I've been making a podcast. So this episode is actually meant to go along with a recent podcast reacting to Thor Love and Thunder. So let's get into it. So this was supposed to be a video of the podcast, and I think I brought the thunder a little too hard.
You flipped too hard, damn it!
We don't have the video, so apologies, guys. This is going to be an audiogram of the podcast, but hey, you're going to have really great sound quality for everything other than, you know, this with the cicadas and the planes. Let's just jump into it. So for everybody who's been around this channel for a while, you've probably already seen Courtney in a lot of my films. But
hello.
For those of you who haven't, this is Courtney.
Hi.
Yeah. So we started a podcast together, and we've already recorded a few episodes, and things are going to get a little bit out of order. But
jumbled.
This is going to be one of the podcast episodes, and we're throwing this one up on YouTube as well. This is kind of merging with Story Ark. Now, what are we doing today?
Well, we just got back from seeing Thor Love and Thunder.
Yes, indeed.
What a time to be alive. I'm hopped up on just an aggressive amount of Coke.
Yeah.
And oh, that sounds worse. Caffeine, like Coca-Cola, not
Coca-Cola,
like,
yep.
oh my God.
We don't go that hard to go watch a movie.
As it came out of my mouth, I was like, no.
No. An aggressive amount of Coke.
Just...
It's an aggressive enough amount of caffeine to give us that little bit of gold.
Yeah.
Yes,
cool.
I also have had some caffeine, but clearly not as much. So anywho, we went to go see Thor, and this is going to be our first reactions. We are going to get into some spoilers, but I think before we delve into spoiler territory, for anybody who's watching this and they want to kind of figure out if they want to go see it, or maybe you just like to watch reviews anyway, this is going to be the spoiler-free part first, I think.
Yeah, we'll just kind of thoughts, feelings, and impressions
thoughts, feelings, and impressions. So,
yeah.
How were you feeling leaving the theater? Just general feelings after the movie.
Well, I mean, 13 out of 10 for humor. Like,
Yeah.
it was adorable, and it was wholesome, and it was, I mean...
It was a Taika Waititi film.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It is indicative of Taika's style, and it really does. It has a lot of really fun jokes. Overall, I liked it.
Yeah, let's not give a score. I'm tempted to give a score. We'll save that to the end.
Okay. Initial feelings, like I had fun.
Yeah.
I had fun.
Okay. All right. I would say for me, first feelings when the film was over was yes, great fun. Like, I was laughing the whole way through. Of course, I'm always excited to see what the post-credit scenes are.
We were cackling in the back of the theater.
Absolutely cackling. I was definitely the loudest person there. 100%. I really enjoyed the humor, and that stuck with me as soon as the credits were rolling. I did find myself immediately wondering how I felt about it in relation to Ragnarok. And compared to Multiverse of Madness, since that was the other more recent film.
Yeah.
And I think maybe there's more to dig in there with just the fact that was a question immediately in my head. But I definitely did feel good about it. It's just where does it fall? Yeah,
where does it land on the scale?
Yeah.
I'd agree. I don't know that I was immediately comparing it to the others that I've seen Marvel film base wise. I had just, for all intents and purposes, like I just felt like, yay, I saw a movie that entertained me.
Yeah, well, and that's good. That's generally a good thing. So I think we're stepping into the territory immediately of, this is a good movie and worth seeing.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's still wigging me. I know that you're right there, and I'm looking here. This is still messing with me. So if you're watching this and you see me just look over here suddenly, and my hand shows up,
I'm over here. Jonathan's over there.
Yeah,
and
we're
on
not
the same couch.
we're not in like different places, but we have different cameras.
Yeah.
Anywho, yeah. So I liked it. Let's go character by character for just a moment here, because like any good MCU movie, there are a ton of characters.
Yes.
But again, Taika Waititi has his own way of introducing them. So let's
Yes.
start with the titular character, Thor, Odin's son. Like, what were your general feelings about Thor through this movie? Did this feel like a normal Thor adventure? How did it stack up to like Ragnarok and Infinity War for you? Does it feel like the same character? Did you like him better, less?
I think knowing what we know with the movies that have come since Ragnarok, I believe that this was his character. Like, I do believe that it's him, and I fell into it pretty quickly, especially falling into his character again. It is, how do I put this? He's a bit more lighthearted than his typical persona in most of the MCU movies.
Yeah.
I don't have a qualm with it. I like it. I like the humor. I like the almost flighty
flighty. Yeah, I think I know where you're going with that.
You know what I'm saying, where he's a bit...
He's very human in this movie,
yes.
and nervous in a very comical way, which is fine. I think it's interesting. The way he was in Ragnarok and the way he was in this movie, they're very similar. And then in between, we've had Infinity War and we've had Endgame, where he was just depressed as heck, and they cover that in the they cover that in this film in kind of montage.
We definitely get what happened between.
Yes. And that was another thing, just kind of skipping ahead to the next character here, that I liked about this film. I kind of knew to expect just from an interview that Natalie Portman did, but getting some insight into Jane and Thor's relationship before, I think was a good part of this movie.
That was neat, because you know, up until now, all we know is that, you know, unless of course you delve really into the comics and what's canon and what's... Well, I mean,
at this point, the relationship between them, how it is in the comics, it's just
out the window at this point. So, but I liked to see what happens in more detail.
Yeah.
Because it gave the relationship legs. I'll put it that way. Like we
so much of it happened off screen before, and now we get that, and that brings us to Jane Foster. Had, like, without going into spoiler territory here
yet.
What did you think? I mean, did you have fun with her character, I think is what I'm going to ask here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little biased because I am a sucker for Natalie Portman. But
who is not a sucker for Natalie Portman?
But I enjoyed seeing more of her character. I enjoyed the journey that we were taken on with her, because I don't, you know, of course the original Thor movie where we meet her, you fall in love with her, you get invested in her, but I feel like this movie allowed me to really know her.
She's more of a person.
She's more three-dimensional than she was before, and I appreciate that. I do.
I will say this, that I think she gets probably the most, maybe not well-rounded arc in the movie to me, but like she has a distinct purpose, and I think there's a reason that that Natalie signed on to play Jane again. Like, she was out for years. She hasn't filmed new footage since like 2013 or 2012 or something like that.
Long. Wow.
And she agreed to come back, and when you watch this movie, you can see why she agreed to come back.
Absolutely, yeah. I felt fulfilled. I'll put it that way when it comes to like you said, her arc.
Her arc, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've got the titular Thor characters, both of them covered here, which we're delving into spoiler territory here. Yeah. I think we don't need to go over Korg and whatnot yet. We'll dive into that in a moment, which they have some great moments. But spoilers now. So if you don't want spoilers, get out. Knowing
we'd love to see you, but
rest assured, you will go see a great MCU film, a great film in general. And if that's all you want to know, get out now. because I think the first spoiler I want to jump into is just the reveal of the title and what its new meaning.
Yes.
I'm skipping to the end here. I'm not going to go into it, but real quick thing, I do love that they expected us. Taika wanted us to go in there thinking that it's Love and Thunder is like basically Jane and Thor, and it is, but it isn't. There's a much bigger reveal at the end. So, getting into spoilers here, Gore the God Butcher, Christian Bale, holy crap!
Yeah.
What? I thought he was an amazing villain.
I did too. Well, I mean, Christian Bale is
It's
just
Christian Bale.
He goes so heavy into what he's doing that it's just like you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Like you see him on the cast list, and it's like, okay, this is gonna be good.
Yep.
So
there's gonna be some intensity here. I think.
Yeah.
This is probably, and some other reviews have said this already. I think it's one of the most sympathetic villains in the MCU, right up there alongside. Thanos and
but even like I feel more for Gore than I did Thanos.
I think more, yes, it definitely agreed in a more direct, like one-to-one sense. Thanos had this well-rounded, well-meaning until you get to 2014 Thanos coming back in time.
Well, and
Endgame.
Thanos was also larger than life. Gore is he stems from humanity. I mean, like it's
well, and even when he's doing big things, you still feel in every scene that he's in this dad that's been driven a little insane, and this devout theist who's been abandoned by his god and feels slighted. You get that even when he's just doing these weird snaky shadow monster things.
Well, and he's corrupt. Like the sword itself is corruption.
Yes.
So when are we allowed to say what happens to?
Yes, we're
in spoiler territory.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so when that sword breaks and disintegrates and he no longer has that, you see even in the makeup, and like this is something that I sit there and I watch very thoroughly, and it's just like you saw it leave his body and suddenly he's mortal again. He's human. He's vulnerable.
Yeah.
And you saw the change in his acting too. So like with Thanos, you have this larger than life godlike figure. And with Gore, you have somebody who was corrupt by powers that are bigger than himself.
Yeah, corrupt by an understandable tragedy and set of emotions and reactions and feelings to that, and some unfortunate circumstances for him.
Yeah.
That ultimately lead to a good place for Gore. Like,
yes.
As a dad watching that, I'm like, look, if that's this, do not quote me on this. We don't live in a world with necro swords, but like, if I was like, oh, my child was taken from me, and somebody told me, okay, you're gonna go get revenge on a bunch of gods. You're gonna be in a pretty hellish spot, but at the end of it, again, spoilers, your daughter gets not only returned, but like gets to live her life in full, in probably a better way than you would have. Yeah. Like, he gets vindicated, too.
Yeah.
But I think there's a great, kind of bring this back around to Story Ark here.
Yeah.
I loved thinking about it after leaving the theater, because this didn't hit me while watching it. Even though Christian Bale's Gore kind of mentions it, just how perfect inverse Jane Foster, Mighty Thor, and Gore the God Butcher are in this movie. They are literally the inverse of each other. Right? Gore loses his faith, he loses his daughter, but has his life, and therefore takes up a weapon that calls to him to do evil while killing him. And Jane, on the flip side, is losing her life and takes up a beneficial, heavenly, godly weapon that kills her by not allowing to heal herself, takes her mortality for her to do good.
Right. But, in a way, it almost alludes to, like, well, yes, it was draining her.
Yeah.
Because it again, is they're powers that are so much bigger than the human body can handle. She even says, it's like it gave her an extra life.
And it did.
So it probably drew, we're led to believe at least that it drew it out at least a little bit longer.
Possibly. I kind of felt personally that was more of a not a literal more life. It was more of it allowed me to go live more.
I feel like there was a duality there. There was a double meaning to it.
Yeah. I mean, the point stands that like we had that aspect to it, but I love that parallelism. That symmetry between the characters, because Thor himself is then caught between these two forces.
Yeah.
Right. From a narrative perspective, I think what I really loved about this film, other than that aspect, was that Thor, you see him at the beginning of the movie in that amazing fight with the freaking owl people. Like, or what were they? Owls or like little hawks, or they were freaking hilarious. Weird. Like, I felt like they were plucked straight out of what's his name? The guy that did the Muppets and whatnot.
Jim Henson.
Henson. Yes. Like, they were just pulled straight out of his mind and thrown into the MCU.
Even the mannerisms were exactly like
with the eyes and the beaks.
I love it.
Gosh, okay. One of my favorite scenes in recent movie history, I think. It was just so insane. But the point I'm trying to make is that in the beginning of this movie, Thor literally goes up and sits on a mountaintop and waits for somebody to come beg him. He's made his life about, I want people to come beg me to help.
Yes.
And then I'll do it, but not for them, for me. Like, if he was doing it for them when he comes and did this fight, he would actually care about the temple instead of wrecking it.
Wrecking it completely. Yeah.
So it becomes a journey.
That's a good point.
For him to become a better god, because by the end of it, he's seen how callous these other gods are, how reckless and evil Gore has become.
Mm-hmm.
And he has seen how selfless Jane is, and all of that changes him. This is one of those weird hero's journeys where, yes, his choices affected him, but I think it's really cool how every other character's arcs made his arc what it was.
Made him worthy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Made him worthy in a new way. Like, he was still worthy of Mjolnir, but now he becomes worthy of being a god.
Worthy of being a parent, being a god, being who he is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And changing overall, the way gods are viewed.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, he saw how many of them are corrupted, and it's just, and who knows if that's, always been that way. And over the eons, gods have just become bored with it, so they are as callous as they are, but he's about to change everything.
I mean, the landscape changes because of his actions. I mean, he thought he killed Zeus.
We all thought he killed Zeus.
I realized later when we're watching that post-credit scene, I was like, oh shit, we didn't see like the glitter. Like, he didn't turn into cosmic dust. I think
we didn't see a body either. We've talked about this before. We saw him fall, but we did not see a body.
We talked about it, with Brenner and Stranger Things, didn't we?
Yes.
Spoilers for Stranger Things, by the way.
That episode.
Everybody's seen that. That crashed Netflix. No, that's a good point. And now that we're talking about it, I think the theater show, which, by the way, we get the return of Sam Neill and Matt Damon and
Chef's Kiss. That was the best thing.
Right? I don't think, hot take, maybe not a hot take, I don't think it was as good as their previous performance.
Oh no, but I really loved Melissa McCarthy. That was
Melissa McCarthy
hilarious.
Showing up as Hela was totally unexpected.
Oh my god!
I said this in the theater when we had just finished it. And I'll say it again now. This film, I think, gave me more left turns. Didn't expect that. Than even than Spider-Man: No Way Home, which I guess probably didn't give me any because it was some of the worst kept secrets. But and even more than Multiverse of Madness did. Like, it gave a lot of, I truly didn't see that coming moments.
Yeah. I usually when I'm watching a Marvel film can kind of
You can
predict
kinda,
where it's
yeah.
going. Yeah, I'll be wrong, but this one I was wrong most of the time. And I like that. I do. I like being
It's good to be
incorrect.
wrong as a viewer when you're watching a film. Not so wrong that like you feel confused, but wrong in a way that clearly they intended, they set up, everything's there. When you look back at it, you see the building
Well, if
blocks.
we follow everything that is canon in the comic books, there's no mystery. You know,
Yes, yes. And
it's
they
one of those
definitely
things
deviated
where,
from canon for
yes,
this a
big
lot.
time. Big time.
Which they have a lot in the MCU in
but
general. You know,
yeah.
they're not as beholden to it as I think some people think they are.
Well, right. And I go back to the fact that if you follow it page for page,
Mhm.
there's nothing to surprise you with. There's nothing to keep you intrigued except the fact that now you're just seeing real
Yeah.
life people enacting it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I appreciate that. I do.
Which total side note, I think, and maybe we do an episode on this someday. I think that's part of the reason that game adaptation movies are so hard to get right, because there's a specific story
Yeah.
and you can't just tell it the exact same way, but
You
people
can't.
also want it that way too. Anywho,
Yeah. Oh no, I get it. I
Yeah.
100% agree with you on that.
yeah. But I'd meant with the play, backtracking again
Yeah.
for a second. In the play, they go out of the way to have Sam Neill. Oh, I'm turning into sparkly golden dust. Like they draw attention to that.
Hey, remember this?
Which was clearly them wanting you to go, oh, we didn't see the sparkly shit when Zeus died.
Yes.
Yep.
I agree.
You know, I didn't see it until after the movie, but hey, kudos to Taika for that and giving us the clear
A little
he's not actually
foreshadowing.
dead.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Foreshadowing.
That's neat. Yeah. Yeah.
Which I don't know. What was your favorite aspect, just from like a filmmaking, storytelling? I know there's clearly we touched on the makeup, which the more I think about it was awesome stuff to dig into. What was your favorite part of the film?
Just as a filmmaker in general? Oh man. I think honestly the ensemble work.
Yeah.
Especially with those children.
Oh,
like,
yeah, the kids did a great job.
The kids were phenomenal.
They were great.
And to get them to have that comedic timing and be invested in, like, that many children, for one thing, and having them be as, like, tight. And that I was blown away by all ensemble aspects in this. And that's something that I do appreciate for most things, because if the ensemble, it doesn't click, the whole thing falls apart. So that was one. From an actor standpoint, really loved that.
Yeah.
Makeup, I think, was my absolute favorite part as a filmmaker. The makeup, I was just blown away.
It's extraordinary, right?
The entire movie. Yeah. Just, I mean, I sat there going, like, how the heck did they do that? Like, where's teeth? And I really, really hope that it was practical effect and they didn't just go in
and chip away things and move things.
Right.
I'm sure some of it was VFX, you know. But
yeah, but still, I mean, just
thematically,
gorgeous.
The makeup was great. Like you mentioned earlier, you see the tendrils and the veins,
like,
and
I have goosebumps.
Change, but then also you also see, even when it's purged from him later on, you see where it has permanently affected him,
left
as it's
him
killing him.
scars, and
the weird scars there, and
so
again the contrast too when we see Jane dying.
I was just gonna,
with her makeup, like she went from sickly cancer death, like the hospital
Gaunt
scene was chilling, to she was like golden. There, like you can tell it was beautifully done. I thought I'll let you speak on it a little bit more, but I thought it was really cool that she still kind of looked a little sick, a little sallow, but not in any coloring way. I don't know how. Do you have any idea how they did that? Because it didn't seem like coloring to me.
I think what a lot of people forget when it comes to showing that somebody is sick is a lot in the acting itself. You know, yes, when people are ill, their under eyes turn a bit red or a pinky kind of violet hue, which we saw in the hospital scene where her eyes are very sunken in. But it's her behaviors that sell it. So they could get away with less makeup in that. One, I'm
Yeah.
sure it was lighting too. She probably did have some good,
Yeah.
darkening around the eyes because you could see it a little bit.
Yeah.
But the lighting was so angelic that it softened it all.
Yeah.
Which was probably honestly, when I think about it, that's probably what it was. A little less makeup, but it was more lighting and trying to make her look a bit more heavenly.
Mm-hmm.
But it was brilliant.
Yeah.
It was brilliant to see that, especially because it was almost like the life leaving her body was a relief.
Yeah.
Like I felt like the entire theater went.
Yeah. Well, especially
Even
knowing
though we didn't want that.
we didn't want that, but then knowing because Taika set it up in that scene that we knew the exchange we were getting there.
Mm-hmm.
From a storytelling perspective and from characters, literally just balancing the scene out. We had 2 people die, a new life coming in. We knew that Jane was essentially being replaced by a new love of Thor's life, but in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And that Gore was getting his catharsis, but also his just reward too. Like I don't know.
What's interesting too, and now that I think about it, I'm going back to like the gold dust that's coming out. Jane had the gold, like she disintegrated into gold dust, which was, if we didn't have that scene, the credits scene, could have told us right there that she's living on, like she's in Valhalla.
And also told us that Thor was wrong when he spoke to Sif earlier in the film.
Yes.
And he tells her,
Yes.
technically you have to die in the battle. You survive.
Yes.
Because she didn't die in the battle. She died after the battle was done.
Right.
So
but
Thor
I
was
don't
wrong.
think we never saw Gore disintegrate, did we?
No, but he wasn't a god.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, it told it without the credits scene, it told us, hey, wait, Zeus is probably still alive because we didn't see any of that.
Yep.
So.
Yep, we didn't see. Yep. Yeah.
Interesting.
That's gonna stick with me for a while. Just how
I love subtleties like that.
I love things like that. I like to think that I try and think ahead and put those things in my films, and like I'm going to put them in the lake.
You are pretty good at that,
and
though.
Stuff. I try because I love it so much when I see it.
Yeah.
Like
well,
with
it's
this.
a nice Easter egg kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, you want to be giving your audience the tools to figure things out themselves, and then to feel like, oh man, I knew it all along, even when you didn't. Yeah.
I appreciate being treated like a intelligent human being instead of
your audience.
Come,
is
children, let me take your hand and tell you the story word for word.
Which Taika also did. Like, if we can touch on that for a second, how great it was that Taika gets to play Korg, and then narrate the story in the same way that myths were created. I mean, superhero stories, that's our modern mythology, just like the gods of old, Zeus and whatnot. And then we get the literal, like, how people heard those stories back in the day, like a bunch of kids sitting around a cave, and we're hearing the director through a character tell us this just
I love Taika.
Great meta stuff.
God, I want to work with that man.
There's got to be, knowing Taika, I haven't thought too much about it, but there was a lot of subtext about colonialism in Ragnarok. So there must be some subtext to the whole story for Taika here. We've got a disparity between castes. We've got gods. I mean, it's probably something related to capitalism or the hyper rich.
Yeah,
probably I would go with the hyper rich.
Now that you say it. Now that you say it, yeah.
We had Omnipotent City with the characters there literally bled gold, and the god in the beginning bled gold too, but Thor didn't, and the other gods we've seen so far haven't. But just these ones who are like, you're beneath me.
Yeah.
Literally had gold in their veins. I think there's probably something there.
Dumpling God was my favorite.
Dumpling God. So, and then what was with the god with no body? He had feet, like a beard, and a head. And he's like, "Shut up! I want to go to the orgy." Like, what? What are you gonna do? Anyway, don't need to go down that road. I immediately what does it say about me that I immediately thought about that when they were like, and he's like, "Shh." Of all the gods, he's the one that's like, "Shh, don't mess up the god orgy."
How does that even work?
I don't.
He's just feet.
We should stop now.
Does he have a foot fetish? I hate myself for that one.
Which oh my I heard a great quick kind of no, I'm gonna keep this spoiler free, but quick mention of The Boys talking about feet. There's a shot in the finale of The Boys, and one of my one of the commentators and video essayists that I also watch on YouTube made a comment. It was like, all right, and then we get to Quentin Tarantino's favorite shot in his episode of The Boys, because there's a shot of Queen Maeve's, like, you come by Queen Maeve's feet while she's on a couch.
Yes.
Anyway, that killed me as a total aside.
Oh my god.
We could go on. Okay, clearly we could go on for a while longer. Let's shift gears for a second. We've talked about all the things that not all the things, but a lot of the things we did like.
Yeah.
Let's talk briefly. What didn't you like? What didn't work for you from a filmmaker's perspective? And if you want to break it up into like audience perspective, or if they're the same.
I felt as a filmmaker and an audience member and a filmmaker who was in the audience, dancing around that.
Yep.
I felt like this film was geared too much towards exposition for like setting us up for the next generation of MCU, like the next phase of MCU, where it was almost, it felt too fluffy to me. Fluffy as in, like, I mean, okay, we understand who Love is now, we understand where she comes from, and like, but it just felt like everything that happened in this, like, okay, so what he was looking for was his daughter to return all along, deep down.
Yeah.
So it felt like we got to the end and it was like, oh, that was
my stomach. Did you hear that?
Yes, I did. And I was
Holy
like, what the
cow. Sorry, everyone.
I really hope the mics pick that up.
I kind of hope so.
I'm keeping it in there.
Anywho, sorry, continue.
Yeah, like I felt a little deflated. I'll put it that way. Like, I felt like we could have had something that packed a bit more of a punch. You felt
like the resolution didn't quite meet the expectations.
It was fine. It was just okay. You know, I don't know what I want because I haven't had enough time to really sit with it because, you know, we literally just got done with the movie.
Right.
But it just kind of felt like, oh, so we needed an ending and that's it.
That's it. Yeah, okay. I can see that.
That's where I'm at. I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
I nothinged it.
Like. All right. Okay. Anything else?
No. I want to hear your thoughts, honestly.
No. I will say I get it.
Yeah.
I disagree, but I get it. I could see that. I think for me, I did like the end. I think the resolution worked. I think the resolution paid off the thematic story elements that were being woven together.
Yeah,
it
did.
That all worked for me and gave us the nice surprise of the girl coming back and being united with Thor and becoming essentially Thor's daughter. Like, that was totally out of left field. I like that. It did feel out of left field too for that reason. And I do think the dialogue there probably could have been worked a little better to make it land better.
And maybe that's what I was missing. Maybe it was just kind of one of those things of like, this is what you've needed all along.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think that's what didn't work about it for me, for sure.
Now that you say it out loud and like I've heard it from somebody else, it lies in the dialogue for me.
Yeah.
It's not so much the plot or the story. It's just like I said, it needed a little bit more of an oomph at the end there.
I liked that it came down to basically Thor going, I'm gonna do this after all this chasing you. Like, I leave the decision to you. Like, he changed a mind rather than taking a life. I liked that.
I appreciate
do think
that.
The dialogue just could have maybe tweaked. Not that I'm saying I could do dialogue better than Taika and whoever wrote the script, but you're right. There's something a little lacking.
It was like this build up, and then we went, huh.
Here it is. He convinced him real quick.
Little party popper, like,
Woo! One of those really wimpy firecracker. It just came out the fourth, one of the bottle rockets. I think for me, I liked the movie in general.
Yeah.
I really liked it. I don't know yet if I liked it better or worse than like I mentioned earlier, Ragnarok or Multiverse or whatnot. I kind of liked. I think I do like it better than Multiverse. But what didn't really work for me was something. I'm not sure what it is yet, but something about the pacing of the story, trying to get those left field elements in there, get those surprises, made it feel a little start and stop to me. Maybe it's not quite it. I'm trying to lay my finger on
I
it.
know
but
what
there
you're.
was
I
something
know
about
what
the
you're
pacing.
saying, though.
I almost felt jerked around a little bit.
It almost felt like a light trot.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's not. Yeah, it's we weren't off to the races. I never felt like there was a part like, oh, we're in and we're just going in.
Right.
Full speed ahead.
Yes.
Maybe other people won't feel that, but clearly what I'm saying is resonating with you a little bit.
Yeah,
too.
no, and I totally agree. Like, there's overall, I really liked it. I had fun. It was a good movie. It was something different for typical MCU, which I appreciate because
they're definitely trying new things.
Yeah, and I
like
do
that.
appreciate that. I love that. I love to see the experiment with how can we take something that's become its own entity at this point and play with it.
Yeah.
Let's bring in new aspects, new elements, and I do
new styles. I mean, that's a huge part of it.
I love that. Like I said before, 13 out of 10 for humor.
Yep.
But at the same time,
sorry, keep going.
Yes, you're right though. But at the same time, you have to hold true to what we know and love about the MCU, and that is there is a certain point where there is a turn, and we are, like you said, off to the races.
Yep.
This one did feel a little kind of like
the
roller coaster was trying to get uphill.
Here we are, and now we're back at like I think the best example of this, and it had a purpose, and I get it, and I ultimately liked it, but it was a little jarring. Is we have the seemingly climactic battle with Gore, and then it's over. They retreat. He gets the axe out of their hospital, and it's not the real climax.
Yeah.
And so you go from like, oh, fast, and then nope, slow, reveal for Thor, decision for Jane, and those all needed to be there, and they all worked, but it was just kind of whiplash.
The transitions could have been smoother. They didn't have to be long and drawn out, but the transition to those kinds of beat changes, could have been a little bit smooth. In my personal opinion. I mean, other people might watch it and be like, what are you talking about? You're so wrong.
This is a great pace. Like, you guys are idiots.
Yeah. Like I have no qualms. I just know what we know and love about the MCU and what we have become accustomed to. And there's a way of changing things up, but also staying true to what works with the MCU. Because you are creating a certain world within these stories, and it's like if the world completely changes the way it paces itself, it is jarring. And it was, at least for me as an audience member, it was a little jarring. It didn't take me out of the film, which I think is first and foremost the most important part. Is I stuck with it the entire time.
Oh yeah.
So A+, gold star there. But yeah. I would agree with you.
The movie's collected one of my gold stars. How do I get that gold star back?
There are not limited stars.
Oh, they're not. Oh man, I thought there was there were only 6.
You need to attain 5.
Okay.
For those of you who haven't listened to the podcast, we're apparently collecting gold stars. We have no idea what the rules are, or
I'm collecting my Goldfinity gauntlet.
Oh god.
Which I did love that gag. Okay, totally. Just the infinity cones.
Yeah. The ice cream shop.
The ice cream shop. Anywho, we're down to the point where I'm talking about the ice cream shops in the movie.
It was fun. It was a fun movie. I enjoyed it.
Rating. Let's go to rating. 1 out of 10. You've already given it 13 on humor, so clearly it's got something pulling it high. But where does it land overall?
I'd give it a 7.
Okay, 7. I gravitate towards 8s. Maybe I'm just biased and I score things the same way, but I was going to go with 8. Maybe 8.5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I give it a 7. I enjoyed it. Like I said, I had fun. It was a really wonderful piece of film. You know, art department, everything from the ground up, absolutely gorgeous. Loved it. I did not like it more than Ragnarok.
Oh, okay. So you know that firmly. Okay. Jury's still out for me.
I feel like it's apples and oranges. The only thing that's
Yeah.
the same is that it's Thor.
Yeah.
But so, you know, is that rating fair? I don't know, but first impression right out the gate after seeing it, like
You probably I think I haven't really looked through them, but I think most critics are the same way. So you're in
really,
line with
I haven't looked up
critics.
anything. Like I made sure
Well, I haven't
to
looked
not...
those things up, but my algorithm on all of my devices is just targeted. Hey, here's everything about movies in the MCU right now.
Yeah.
I can't avoid it.
I don't know that I'm going to be rushing to go rewatch it. But I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, it's actually pretty rare that I rewatch things.
There's great movies. I mean, I said this about the Batman, Matt Reeves' The Batman, that I personally think it is. I'm not going to say objectively, even though I want to. I personally think it is a better movie than The Dark Knight.
It was so good.
But I specifically mentioned, and I'll say this again and again, that I don't think it's as rewatchable. Some movies are just really
commit.
good on the first viewing, and then the second time around, you're just, not that you're not as into it, but like, it's heavy, it's long.
Yeah, well, and
and it's not fun.
The Dark Knight, anytime it's on, like if I'm watching TV and it's like, I'll end up watching it, and like that's Thor: Love and Thunder. If that happens, I might be swayed to just leave it on.
Yeah.
But I'm not, like I said, I'm not rushing to go rent it once it's out on, streaming platforms and stuff like that. Well, I guess it'll be on Disney Plus. So like I get it for free anyway. Yeah. But either way, like I'm going to be springing for different ones, I think, before I spring for this one.
Yeah. Yeah. I probably am going to ultimately end up agreeing with that sentiment. I do know right now I would probably go back and rewatch it soon, assuming like my wife wants to watch it or something like that. I will go watch it with somebody else and have fun and pick apart different things.
Sure, but that's because you're objectively watching it.
Yeah, well, and I do think I just want to watch again. And also, Natalie Portman was so jacked.
Oh my God,
like,
I know.
I've always, I
need to get to the gym.
I'm sure my wife has figured this out because I'm a human being, but like I always had a Natalie Portman crush, of course.
I have a Natalie Portman crush.
But now jacked Natalie Portman too? Yeah, so I'll rewatch the movie.
Did you say Natalie Portman?
Did I say Portman? I was looking right at you. Maybe I did. My brain is fried now.
We are coming down off the soda caffeine.
I think it's time to sign off.
But overall, what you said 8? 8.5.
Maybe 8.5, yeah.
I said 7. Maybe I might gravitate towards the 7.5, maybe an 8. But yeah, it's good. It's fun. The goats will have you laughing the whole time. Although I do wish that he would have stuck to the rule of 3 when it comes to comedy. Because at a certain point, like, I do feel like my only critique of Taika is that he can sometimes beat a dead horse with a joke.
In this case, a dead goat.
Yeah.
Well,
2 of them.
They didn't die.
Well, they didn't die.
Did they?
But no, they better not have.
I mean, they hit the ground pretty hard.
Yeah. Either way, screaming goats, lots of fun. Could have dialed it down.
I agree. Taika does go too hard sometimes, and you can. And some people have made this complaint, like you undercut some of the emotion sometimes with it.
Yes.
Last thing I will say while we're talking about the goats, then we should cut it off.
We're talking
My
about the
favorite of the goat moments, hands down, was when they hit the small planet.
I know.
I screamed like one of the goats. Loved
you did
that.
actually.
I was so loud. So very loud.
We're fun to watch movies with.
Yeah. We should do one day, if we can figure out one that's a good one. Like, it'll have to be a rewatch. We can't stream a new movie. We'll maybe live react to a film for like the 3 of you that want to stick with us.
Yeah, the whole 3 of you. But yeah.
Anywho.
I think we covered a lot of ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We'd love to hear what you think.
Please,
because our word is not law, obviously.
If you're watching this on Story Ark, Again, this is for our Sights and Sounds podcast. I'm going to start putting more of those episodes, or at least pieces, up on YouTube as well for you guys. But please head over to wherever you like to stream your podcasts and follow the Sights and Sound podcast. Apple, Spotify, whatever it is, we got you. We're probably there. And we'd love to have you on board there as well. And we'll see you in the next video if you're watching videos. Otherwise, if you're listening to the podcast, thanks for listening to the Sights and Sound podcast, guys.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Cut.